Greetings, I'm John Phillips and this is PJTV. As part of today's special, we're going to talk to the author of the #2 New York Times bestseller that's catching the nation by storm. It's called Adios America, The Left's Plan to Turn Our Country into a Third World Hellhole. The author is kind enough to join us in studio. And Coulter, thanks so much for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, John Phillips.
Now, this book is very different than your other books, which were New York Times bestsellers themselves. How many now total?
This is number 11, thank you for asking.
Lucky number 11. With the other books, you did appearances on CNN, on the big networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Today Show.
CBS Morning Show.
This time, you weren't booked on any of those mainstream network programs, yet it's still a #2 New York Times bestseller.
Yes, and it's been 5 weeks so far. It's selling quite well. It seems to be mostly word of mouth at this point. I mean, I did anticipate this, but still, when it happens, it's kind of shocking. I mean, as I've said, I'm the female Bob Woodward. This is my 11th New York Times bestseller, and no one will put me on. But the media, I mean, the answer is, as I describe in the book, the media doesn't want Americans thinking about immigration. It's not even, it used to be that you'd hear one side of the immigration debate. They realized, no, we just don't want Americans even, they don't want that being something that Americans develop a position on. That will not be menu of options. You must have a position on Ferguson and gay marriage and the Iraq War, but immigration, don't even think about it.
Every once in a while, an election will hinge on one particular issue, one particular incident could trigger that issue to become the #1 issue. In 1988, we had Willie Horton come out and do horrific things in Massachusetts, or was released from Massachusetts. It sunk Michael Dukakis.
Yes.
In California, we had Richard Allen Davis kill Polly Klaas, and that sparked the 3 strikes and you're outlaw. We just had a horrific murder in the city of San Francisco, where a young woman was gunned down. She was just playing the role of a tourist there with her family, and a bullet caught her, killed her. 3 shots were fired. It was an illegal alien who was deported 5 different times. ICE wanted a hold on him. The sheriff there in San Francisco, Ross Mirakarimi, had a policy as a sanctuary city of not cooperating with ICE. And people are up in arms over this. As a result, Dianne Feinstein has said that we need to do away with sanctuary cities. Barbara Boxer has said we need to do away with them. Same thing with Hillary Clinton. Could this be the Willie Horton of this particular election?
I hope so, if any Republican is smart enough to take advantage of it. And 2 things about that. One is crime has always been a huge winning issue for Republicans. It's been our best issue, even better than the vow to cut taxes. Unfortunately, through Republican successes, because they win elections running on crime, the crime problem has gotten so cleaned up in the past couple of decades that we lost it as an issue. That's the problem.
Not anymore. It's now up double digits in Los Angeles.
That's exactly right.
With an aging population.
And we have that lunatic Bill de Blasio, who's mayor of New York now. It's coming back, Republicans. So jump on this and take advantage of it. But the other thing you reminded me of, I mean, I write about the Willie Horton ad in my book, Godless. And you have phrased it exactly right. That was a huge winning issue for Republicans. I would take to the mat, argue that the Willie Horton ad was the greatest ad in political campaign history. So how did Democrats react? By denouncing it as racist, which is weird because they never showed a picture of Willie Horton. But they denounce it and tell Republicans, don't do that, that'll hurt you. It's the exact same thing they're doing with immigration. It's the exact same thing they're doing with Proposition 187 in California, which brought Pete Wilson back, for those of you who don't remember. He was way down in the polls. He had like a 15% approval rating. He tied himself with titanium cords to Proposition 187, denying government benefits to illegal aliens, won a huge come-from-behind victory. And that year he got, well, Proposition 187 won a majority of white vote, black vote, Asian vote, 30% of the Hispanic vote. Pete Wilson got 20% of the black vote that year. Across the nation in 1994, Republican congressional candidates, the average was 8% of the black vote. No, coming out against illegal immigration, really popular, and especially with all of the crimes, many of which are described in my book. I concentrate on the sex crimes because I've gathered from the hysteria over UVA and Duke Lacrosse, 2 rapes, gang rapes that didn't happen, that liberals are still opposed to rape. Apparently not when it comes to immigrants committing rape. No, Donald Trump, a huge furor.
You're very tough on Marco Rubio in the book, who's had any number of different positions on the issue of illegal immigration. Where is he now that the music has stopped during the campaign?
He's where most Republicans are, unfortunately, and that is 100% for amnesty, but willing to lie to the voters. That's his position. I mean, he lied to the voters to get elected. To begin with, in Florida, he ran specifically opposing John McCain's pathway to citizenship, denounced it. That's just another word for amnesty.
Well, that was for the U.S. Senate race, though.
Right.
When he ran for the state legislature, he was very open borders because he represented a very Hispanic part of the state.
You know, this is why I used to think Republicans were just corrupt. I'm moving to the position that they're just stupid. What are the two primary Hispanic groups in Florida? If you do not know, it is overwhelmingly Cubans and Puerto Ricans. Who doesn't need amnesty? Cubans and Puerto Ricans. Oh my gosh, Republicans are stupid. Even a Cuban himself can't add that one up.
What do you say to Republicans who think that Marco Rubio is the most electable person that we have, who does the best in the polls against Hillary? He'd bring maybe Florida, the swing state, with him. There are a lot of Republicans I know that hate Marco Rubio on immigration, but they think that he's the only one that can beat Hillary.
I think it's ridiculous. I mean, I got to tell you, I don't see the appeal even apart from the immigration issue. Does he even shave yet? He's never done anything but run for office. He's just, you know, an on-the-go politician with a shadowy backer in the background. I mean, it really is Latin American politics with this guy. So I mean, I never really saw the appeal. Maybe I'm letting his politics influence that, but I preferred him to Charlie Crist. I remember that, but I don't know if you really were paying attention to that election. I absolutely was. And I mean, remember when that business came up about Marco Rubio using his GOP credit card, for one thing, to remodel his kitchen, and also he spent something like $300 on personal grooming, which Charlie Crist said, well, you're using a GOP credit card to get a back wax. Bill O'Reilly asked him about that on air, and I was for Marco Rubio on the grounds that he was not Charlie Crist. He was our great, you know, Tea Party savior. And I remember, and we can look this up, and put it, you know, online next to this video, what the exact exchange was. But Bill O'Reilly said, now what about using your GOP credit card for a back wax? And Rubio's answer was, I'm not going to dignify that with an answer. No, sometimes you gotta dignify these things with an answer. A simple no would be good.
Wait, did he actually get the back wax?
We'll never know. And even when I was supporting him, I was thinking, gosh, that's a bad answer. Can you just say no and move on? A simple no.
Now, one of the other things in the book that you talk about is the Tsarnaevs, how they were allowed to come to this country. Of course, they were the Boston Marathon bombers. And when you read about that family, you hear about how much they hate America and how they I think, scammed us for $100,000 in welfare. But one of the things that you don't read in a lot of the news stories is that they were immigrants. They weren't born. They were from a different place, and we let them in.
Right.
Why are we allowing people from Chechnya into this country? Or why are we allowing from people from any country that has a problem with terrorism when we're saying no to doctors from England?
No, that's absolutely right. And even when we're not bringing in terrorists, as we are with the 100,000 Somalis in Minnesota, there's a big article in U.S. News and World Report I was tweeting out today. It's like 8,000 words on how do we discourage Minnesota youths from joining ISIS. I have a simple little policy change. Don't import Somalis. But even when we're not importing people from terrorist countries, why would you be bringing in people from cultures as different from ours as possible into a welfare state where we will apparently not even deport felons? But yeah, this is a problem, and that's why, as I've said about my book, the first chapter is on amnesty, because if amnesty goes through, that's it. It's good, lights out America. But the rest of the book isn't about illegal immigration. It's mostly about legal immigration, including those Somalis, including the Zarnev brothers, including the guy who shot up Fort Hood, including the Hmong in Minnesota raping little girls and running sex rings, the Indian model immigrant up in San Francisco who was importing 12-year-old girls from India. He had bought them from their parents for sex, and this was going on for years. The story was broken. I mean, there was eventually a trial, but where was the story broken? By the San Francisco Chronicle? Why, no, you do not know our media if you think a major newspaper broke the story. It was broken by a high school journalism class.
Well, Amazon will just deliver anything these days. The book is Adios America, The Left's Plan to Turn Our Country into a Third World Hellhole, available at Amazon.com. Pick up a copy today. Also, the audiobook Which is uncensored.
Yes! Yes, for the first time ever, and this is, as mentioned, my 11th New York Times bestseller. Most of them have been with New York liberal publishers. For the first time, I got PC edits to this book. Not too many. We came up with some third-way solutions, and I was very angry about it until I remembered they didn't buy the audio rights. So they're all back in. And you also get some outtakes in the audiobook of me trying to pronounce all the comical foreign names.
And that's available at Amazon.com too?
And iTunes, I guess. Yes, read by moi, and it wasn't easy.
How many days did it take to tape it?
Well, it would have taken like 20 minutes. I have the book memorized. They had to insert pauses, except for the comical foreign names. That's why somebody suggested to me, hey, you ought to do an outtakes. And I said, but I can't, I keep cursing. He said, that'll be hilarious.
All right, available at iTunes and Amazon.com. Also, don't forget to follow Ann on Twitter at Ann Coulter. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/PJTV. Until next time, I'm John Phillips. Thanks so much.